Anh biết điều này nghe có vẻ điên rồ, nhưng anh yêu em. Em cũng yêu anh.
The rain hammered the tin roof of our Brooklyn apartment like it was trying to drown out the secrets we'd buried for years. But Jake's voice cut through all, slurred and raw. I think I love you. Man. Like, really love you. My heart slammed against my ribs as I stared at him. His blue eyes glassy from the whiskey we'd polished off. The kind of confession that shatters worlds in seconds. In that moment, everything we'd built, our unbreakable brotherhood, the late nights laughing over bad takeout, the way he'd crash on my couch after brutal shifts, teetered on the edge of oblivion. Because if he meant it, nothing would ever be the same. I'd known Jake since we were kids scraping knees on the cracked sidewalks of Queens. Back when the world felt infinite and love was just a word for pizza slices shared under streetlights. He was the golden boy, all easy grins and calloused hands from helping his dad on construction sites, while I hid my sketches of boys who looked suspiciously like him in notebooks under my bed. High school blurred into college parties where he'd chase girls with the same reckless energy he brought to everything, swearing up and down that he was as straight as the steel beams he welded. "You're my brother, Alex," he'd say, clapping my shoulder hard enough to bruise, his touch lingering just a beat too long. I believed him because I had to. Loving your straight best friend is a quiet torture, the kind that carves hollows in your chest you fill with jokes and denial. By 28, we'd carved out lives in the shadow of Manhattan's glitter. Him swinging hammers on skyscrapers that pierced the clouds. Me hunched over a laptop in a cramped design studio, turning corporate logos into something almost soulful. Our apartment was a testament to us, his muddy boots by the door, my abstract prints on the walls, a fridge stocked with his IPAs and my almond milk. Nights blurred into rituals, him collapsing after 12-hour days, me coaxing him into bad movies until we dozed off shoulder to shoulder on the sagging couch. There were moments, fleeting as fireflies, when his hand would brush mine pouring coffee, or he'd watch me too intently while I ranted about a client, his silence heavy with something unspoken. But he always pulled back, cracking a joke about some bar hookup, reminding me of the line we'd never cross. That line started fraying months before the rainstorm night, subtle as a thread pulled loose. It was spring, cherry blossoms choking the air with false promises, when Jake showed up at my studio unannounced, his face etched with lines that hadn't been there before. "Divorce is a bitch," he muttered, slumping into my chair, the scent of sawdust clinging to his skin like regret. His latest flame, a fiery bartender named Lena, had walked out after catching him staring at me during a double date, staring, he claimed, because I'd spilled sauce on my shirt like an idiot. But her words echoed in his retelling. You look at him like he's the only one in the room. He laughed it off, but his eyes darted away. And for the first time, I wondered if the straight jacket he'd worn so proudly was starting to chafe. We drowned the awkwardness in rooftop beers that first night, the city sprawling below us like a glittering confession of its own. Jake talked for hours about his dad's old-school rants on real men, about the pressure of being the son who never faltered, about how every woman he dated felt like a role he was failing at. It's like I'm performing, Alex, and you're the only one who sees the real me. His knee pressed against mine, warm through denim, and I held my breath, afraid to move, afraid the world would notice. I want to tell him then, to spill my own truths, the way his laugh lit fuses in my veins, how I dated safe guys just to forget his silhouette in the doorway. But fear is a cruel editor. I swallowed it down, clinking bottles instead. You're enough as you are, Jake. Always have been. Summer scorched the city into submission, turning our apartment into a sweatbox of fans and half-hearted attempts at air conditioning. Jake's shift stretched longer, his body hardening into slabs of muscle that made my sketches take on unintended urgency. I'd catch him shirtless in the kitchen at dawn, pouring cereal with a yawn that bared the curve of his neck, and I'd bury myself in work, fingers flying over keys to outrun the ache. He started lingering after showers, towel slung low, asking my opinion on cologne like it mattered, his gaze flicking to my lips when he thought I wasn't looking. What if I am different? He mused one humid evening, sprawled on the fire escape, stars mocking us from above. What if all this straight shit is just noise? I chalked it up to heartbreak's hangover, to the way loss makes you question foundations. But then came the wedding, his cousin's lavish affair in the Hamptons. All white tents and ocean breezes that carried hints of salt and possibility. He begged me to be his plus one. Can't face the family circus alone, and I went, heart pounding like a bass line I couldn't mute. We danced under string lights, his hand firm on my waist during a slow song, bodies sinking in a rhythm that felt dangerously like home. You make everything better, he whispered into my ear, breath hot against skin, and when his fingers traced my spine, I swear the world tilted. Later, in a hotel room, we shared to save cash. He stripped to boxers and crashed beside me, our legs tangling in sleep. I woke to his arm draped over my chest, his face buried in my shoulder, murmuring my name like a prayer. Morning brought awkward laughs and bro cuddles, but the seed was planted, roots twisting deeper with every stolen glance. Fall painted the leaves in fire, mirroring the burn building between us. Jake threw himself into overtime, coming home hollow-eyed, collapsing with tales of near misses on scaffolds, beams slipping, winds howling like warnings. One wrong move, and it's over, he'd say, vulnerability cracking his voice. I'd patch him up for minor cuts, antiseptic stinging as much as his proximity. Our silence is thick with what-ifs. One night, after a storm knocked power out citywide, we lit candles and shared a bottle of bourbon by flickering light. Shadows danced on his face, softening the angles, and he reached for my hand, thumb stroking knuckles in a way that screamed intent. Alex, fuck. I don't know how to say this. His eyes searched mine, stormy with fear. I squeezed back, pulse thundering. Then don't. Just be. But words have a way of escaping, especially when fortified by liquor. That's how we landed on that fateful October evening, thunder rumbling like the gods themselves were eavesdropping. I just wrapped a brutal deadline, sketches of impossible dreams scattered like fallen soldiers, when Jake burst in, drenched and wild-eyed, a six-pack dangling from one fist. Rough day, he growled, shaking water from his hair like a dog, flannel clinging transparently to his chest. We cracked open cans, the hiss echoing our fraying edges, and talked shit about everything. Bosses who were assholes, exes who were ghosts, the relentless grind of the city that chewed dreams and spat bones. Laughter turned sloppy as the third beer kicked in, barriers dissolving in foam. He paced in, energy coiling like a spring, stopping to grip the windowsill as rain lashed the glass. Remember that time in college? When we got wasted and I kissed you. On a dare. Right? His voice was a rasp. Memory dragging claws. I froze. The phantom press of his lips from 8 years ago igniting nerves I'd long numbed. Yeah. Dare. Lies tasted bitter. But truth was a blade. He turned, face crumpling. It wasn't. I wanted to. God. Alex. I've always wanted to. The room spun. Or maybe that was the alcohol, his confession crashing over me like the storm outside. He crossed the space in 2 strides, hands framing my face, thumbs brushing tears I hadn't realized were falling. I'm scared shitless. Everyone says I'm straight. I say I'm straight, but you're the only one who matters. His mouth crashed into mine, desperate and tasting of hops and honesty. Years of pent-up hunger unleashing in a tangle of tongues and gasps. I kissed back, hands fisting his wet shirt, pulling him closer until there was no air. No space. Just us, raw and real and right. We stumbled to the couch, clothes shedding like old skins, his body heavy and familiar against mine. Every touch a revelation. Whispers turned to moans, boundaries blurring into bliss. The rain our only witness. In the afterglow, tangled and spent, he traced patterns on my skin, voice muffled against my neck. What now? This changes everything. I held him tighter, heart full to bursting. It was always everything. Dawn crept in gray and unforgiving. Sunlight slicing through blinds like judgment. Jake bolted upright, sheets pooling at his waist. Horror etching his features as fragments of the night pieced together. Shit. Alex. What did we do? Panic laces words. Not regret exactly, but the weight of a world unready for his unraveling. I reached for him, but he flinched, scrambling for boxers, muttering about needing air. The door slammed behind him, leaving echoes in an empty bed that felt like a grave. I curled into the pillows, his scent clinging like a ghost, replaying every second, the vulnerability in his eyes, the way he clung like I was salvation. Was it the whiskey talking, or had we finally cracked open the truth? He vanished for 2 days. Radio silence that clawed at my sanity. Texts went unread. Calls to voicemail reciting my own fears. Work blurred into numbness. Designs turning abstract and angry. Strokes of color screaming what words couldn't. On the 3rd morning, a knock rattled the door, his knock. Hesitant and haunted. He stood there, unshaven, eyes ringed with shadows, clutching a greasy bag of our favorite diner breakfast like an olive branch. Can we talk? Please. His voice broke on the plea, and I stepped aside, the chasm between us yawning wider than the Hudson. We sat at the kitchen table, steam rising from eggs like unspoken accusations. I'm not gay, he started, words tumbling fast. Defensive. Or bi. Or whatever label fits. I love you. Always have. But my family's old school. Alex. Dad would disown me. The guys at work, they'd never let it go. Tears tracked his cheeks, mirroring mine, the rawness of it stripping us bare. I nodded, throat tight. I get it. But hiding it? It'll eat you alive. He reached across, fingers intertwining with mine, a lifeline in the storm. Teach me how to be brave. I want this, us. But I'm terrified. That fear became our shadow, dogging every step as we navigated the fragile newness. stolen kisses in alleyways, hands brushing under diner tables, nights where he'd hold me fierce and whisper promises against my skin. But cracks spiderwebbed, his hesitation at a queer bar I'd suggested, the way he'd pull back if a coworker texted mid-embrace. "It's not you," he'd insist, guilt carving deeper lines. "It's me, fighting the man they built me to be." I saw the war in him, the straight facade crumbling under love's relentless siege. And it broke me a little each time, wondering if we'd survive the fallout. Winter clamped down hard, snow blanketing the city in hush, mirroring the quiet siege in our home. Jake threw himself into therapy, sessions squeezed between shifts, emerging quieter, more introspective. The counselors pushing me to own it, he'd say over late dinners. Fork pushing peas like confessions. Says denial's a cage. I'd listen, heart swelling with pride and ache, tracing the scars on his knuckles, marks of a life reshaping itself. We built rituals of resilience, walks in Central Park where he'd link our pinkies under coats, movie nights where rom-coms sparked debates on labels that felt too small for us. Love bloomed tentative, roots seeking purchase in uncertain soil. Every "I love you," a victory snatched from doubt. But drama has teeth, and it sank them deep during the holidays. Jake's family summoned us to Queens for Christmas. The old brownstone, a minefield of traditions and prying eyes. Just friends he coached on the subway, sweat beading despite the chill. I nodded, stealing for the role, but his mom's knowing glance over eggnog, his dad's backslaps that lingered too long, suspicion simmered. That night, after too much spiked cider, his sister cornered him in the kitchen. "I saw you too." "What's going on?" Jake's face drained white, lies spilling clumsy. "Nothing. Just bro stuff." But she wasn't buying, and by morning, whispers circled like vultures. The explosion came on New Year's Eve, fireworks masking the shatter. His dad pulled him aside in the garage, voice booming, "Heard rumors? Son, that queer kid influencing you." Jake's denial cracked under the assault, truth erupting in a roar. "I love him, Dad, and if that makes me wrong, then fuck your rules." The silence that followed was deafening, his father's face twisting from shock to sorrow, then steel resolve. "You're no son of mine if you choose that." Jake stormed out, finding me on the stoop, snowflakes catching in his lashes like unshed tears. We fled to Manhattan, the cab ride a blur of sobs and clenched hands, the city lights mocking our isolation. In the aftermath, grief wrapped us tight, but so did resolve. Jake quit the family crew, landing a gig at a progressive firm downtown, his first step toward a life unchained. No more hiding, he vowed one frostbitten night, breath fogging between us as we kissed under the Brooklyn Bridge, the East River whispering approvals. We leaned into community, pride meetings where he shared haltingly, my hand anchor in his lap, friends who enveloped us without question, their acceptance a balm. Love deepened, not in grand gestures but quiet truths, him surprising me with a custom toolbox etched for our builds, me designing a tattoo of intertwined beams for his forearm, symbol of us strong, unyielding. Spring returned, tentative greens pushing through concrete, echoing our thaw. Jake's dad reached out via letter, words scrawled shaky. I was wrong. Come home. Forgiveness wasn't instant, but it started, a tense dinner where apologies hung heavy, his mom's embrace fierce enough to mend fractures. "Family adapts," she said, I soft on us both. Jake's hand found mine under the table. Squeeze, saying what voices couldn't. We'd won. Years later, on a rooftop, much like the one where it began, Jake drops to one knee, ring glinting like a promise forged in fire. You changed me, Alex. Made me honest. Tears blur the cityscape. Our laughter mingling with rain that's soft now. Nurturing. In his arms. I see it. The drama survived. Tension transmuted to tenderness. A romance etched in scars and stars. Love isn't straight lines. It's the beautiful bend toward truth. And in each other, we found home.